Yeah, you're back.
Hello, I am back. But there is no sound.
On who? On me?
I can hear you.
Who doesn't have sound, guys?
I don't know. You can hear me, ne? I can hear
I
you.
can hear you. Guys, can you hear me? Can you hear us?
I
Guys,
think
thanks so much for staying and coming back.
thank you for coming back. We appreciate you.
For a third hour.
Oh, they say it's fine now. Sound is back. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Right.
Question, ne?
Yeah.
Hi, Thenjiwe and Pradev. Hi. There's sound
Hello.
now. Joke thieves.
Yeah.
Some comedians steal jokes.
Yeah.
And we know they steal jokes. How do you approach someone?
So remember now, always go back to, I record all my shows. I've recorded almost every single show I've done. And obviously that comes with some recorded history in terms of time, venue, when this was said, when you first told that joke, etc. So that's, for me, that's the easiest way I can solve. Or if I think how this person is telling my joke, I'll just go back, find my joke from whenever I first told it and put it out there, right? Then there are other comedians that are not afraid, or for depending on the relationship you have with a person, will come to you and say, but I did this joke, this is how I do it, your joke is same or similar. And obviously some comedians will be like, oh, well, I didn't know you do that joke, or mine goes this way, or So it will always boil down to the two people that are involved, right? Obviously, sometimes other comedians would see someone doing your joke or someone's joke and come and tell you. Or sometimes you are in the room and people are doing your joke.
Your joke in front of you. They do.
So I think we all approach it different in terms of, I've got fuckloads of material, right? And there's jokes that I love, there's jokes I'm still working on and developing. And if someone steals it at that level, they're fucking it up. And it can't get to the stage where it might have been one of your best bits ever, right? So all those things matter in how you decide to approach or not approach someone. Then the other thing is some comedians will just stop booking you, or some promoters or people will just be like, this guy, we're not gonna book him because we know he's gonna do that person's joke, or he's doing a combination of, and word goes around. It's a very small industry, right? So let me tell you how we didn't have some of these problems when we were starting out. So when I went on stage, did something, and I got off stage, Kagiso or Riyadh or whoever would be like, hey man, the thing you do with the double ply toilet paper, add this, add that, do this.
That's what I love when you are with professional comedians.
That's how most professional comedians work and have been for years and years.
And then these other comedians will think for themselves, I'm going to take that joke from David and add ABC.
So what started happening was some guys would watch you and see that I can add to this joke, or I can do it better, and then go and do it somewhere else. That's where then the misunderstandings started happening. So for me, it's one of those things, some people live with them and they don't care, or they write off the other comedian, right? Ronnie Mudimola once walked on stage and shamboked someone because they were doing
I heard about that.
So
proper shambok, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it became a full-on case, and the other one went to the police station, which was extreme. I don't know how many times that happens in the world, but it happened.
But that's like someone stealing your, if you were
like
KFC
food
and
out
your
of
friend
your mouth.
stole your recipe.
Your recipe. Yeah. No, it's no different from that. So it boils down to, can you prove it? What's the difference? Then I think at some stage, maybe if you then have money or there's money involved, then it's going to boil down to how good each other's lawyers are, because at the end of the day, it's IP, it's intellectual property.
That's why it's important to always record. even if you're not recording with the highest of quality.
Yeah, but so it should be treated. It should be treated that way. But someone then has to go and file a case and etc. etc.
Some comedians are lazy. They will say that jokes that are already trending on social media, or they will say that jokes that their fans send them, but they do not know that someone is sending you a joke because they heard it somewhere else, which means it must be someone else's joke.
Yeah. So
and sometimes I cross my jokes as well, because we grow up in the same world, so we go through the same experiences. So just because I talk about being an orphan doesn't mean no other comedian must talk about that. Just because I talk about being a mother doesn't mean no other comedian must talk about being a mom. But then there is a way, even with me and my own sister, we do not talk about my mother the same way. And then when you find someone who's not even a mother saying your jokes about being a mother.
Your experiences are killing me. Yes, sir. You know, for me, because as I got older and I had kids and whatever, I started spending more time at home, or even if I wasn't at home, but I spent less time at comedy clubs because I had to start splitting my time. You know, I started making movies. I started having to be in edit rooms and writing. So I started spending less and less and less time. So some of the stories I hear about comedy clubs and parking groups and WhatsApp groups where people are fighting, those ones from there are fighting those ones. And I'm like, this is some bullshit, you know? This doesn't add anything to comedy. It does. Nobody wins, you know? But there's been, I guess, those instances where you see someone telling a joke, like you're saying, about having his wife's last born, you know? And you're like, but I've tweeted this shit. I've said it so many times on my Instagram posts. And you know.
And then it's a comedian who doesn't even have a baby.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate. But for me, that's why I say this period of corona and lockdown and just literally turning the world upside down. And I'm talking from business to sports to entertainment. People are going to have to come out and rearrange and reassess and restructure their entire careers and entire ways of how do I make money? How do I communicate with people? How do I reach people? How do I stay healthy? You know, how do we prepare for the next anything that can ever happen again? Because it seems this shit happens every 10 years. There's some dodgy something that happens and people just die, you know.
And also, can you please discuss the issue of character comedians, not videos, not people who do skits as different characters, but people who go on stage to do stand-up comedy, but they do it in a form of skits. They come dressed, say it's a man, it dresses like a woman, or they dress like an old man, like they come dressed like they're doing a skit. Is that still part of comedy? Like of stand-up comedy? Would you book someone like that?
For me, because you know, like I said, I've kept my stand-up comedy and my shows very simple. There's a mic, there's a stand-up comedian, and there's a crowd, you know. So, and there's comedians that I like because of who they are and what they talk about. And again, so if I saw you performing a certain act or you were a comedian and this is the routine you were doing, I'm booking you based on that, right? If you watch McLaughlin does his annual one-man shows where he's Auntie May, the colored auntie, and then you still know McLaughlin, who's a stand-up comic, you know, who's the person that when we say here's McLaughlin on stage, that's McLaughlin, that you know, the stand-up comedian. But he does have a fan base where he can book a theater for a month and do a show with Auntie May or a musical, etc., etc. So for me, stand-up comedy we didn't invent stand-up comedy. Tell you, it's been there for years.
Many.
That's why for me, you know, people want to book you and they say there's gonna be a DJ is playing and then there's a battle and then I'm like, yay, now this is what I do. You know, it's very simple. I'm not trying to complicate it because there's people that appreciate that, right? Whether there's other, that's why I even said us being here now live, we're not here to start telling people jokes and trying to do stand-up comedy. That wouldn't be stand-up comedy. But we can talk a lot of shit and make people laugh and try and be fun. Then that's not stand-up comedy. That's comedians having a conversation.
Yes.
Right? So for me, to me, stand-up comedy is exactly what it is. I haven't had those experiences where maybe I booked someone and then they're doing a character.
Oh, I've seen them. Some of them go as acts of 2 or 3 on stage.
Oh no, that's accurate. I've been staying home for too long.
You have? Oh, I've seen some weird things. I have seen some weird things.
But that's a courteous thing, you know. If someone booked you for a stand-up gig, you have to show up for a stand-up gig, you know.
And they always have so much energy and telling you how funny they were, and you're like, dude, really? I've seen them.
Khafela says we all speak English or Vernac. Which one is dominant? Na Khafela, I perform for the audience that's in front of me at that time, especially when I'm doing stand-up comedy.
I always say nothing trains you as a stand-up comedian than performing in South Africa, because even for a black audience, you never know what language to speak until you start.
So you have to find a common
like we always use
language.
Our first 2 minutes
to ascertain.
Because you could be in Joburg, an audience full of black people, and you think, oh, my people, you start speaking Zulu, none of them speak Zulu. And unless you speak Sotho or the other South African languages, it automatically has to go to English, because at least sonke siyayazi English. We can all understand English. Or you could be in KZN and think, hooray, I'm in KZN, I'm going to speak Zulu, only to walk in and the first 6 rows are full of white people. And you know Zulu is not going to be good here. And you cannot be rebellious as a stand-up comic, because everyone who's there has paid money to come and see you, and you have to serve them.
And it's more difficult in South Africa purely because we have 11 official languages, right?
We have 11 languages.
In America,
and
the
it's not like music where you
English.
can just play your song in Sotho and people will still laugh.
If you go to Montreal, you go to Montreal for Just for Laughs, the official language in that town is French. But it's both an English and French festival. So there are French comedians and there are English comedians. But the majority, because they are world performers, are English speaking comedians. So the audience know. People know if they wanna go and watch a Vernac show, and they buy that ticket and they go, you know. They know if they wanna come to a show at Parker's and it's gonna be a 99% white audience. So it's not about us saying, no, from here onwards we're gonna speak Vernac or we're gonna perform only in English. That's why I now always say, if I did blacks only and I rocked up one day and there were 3,000 white people, I'm not gonna perform in Sotho. You know what I mean? I'll find out what language they speak. I've done corporates at casinos for tombola, what they call the tombola, which I'm not sure if it's a French thing or a Chinese thing, but there was a lot of Chinese people because those are the customers or the VIPs for most casinos. It's Chinese people, right? So I knew, again, this is the audience that I'm talking to. They might not know this. They might not understand what I'm talking about. I mean, performing in New York, performing in Montreal. Me and Kagiso once went to Finland, and we were the only black people in the town for a whole weekend, from Thursday to Sunday, Monday, right? And they speak Finnish. So the entire festival, out of 30 comedians, only me and Kagiso and 2 comedians from Iceland spoke English. So the entire festival was in Finnish. And then when we come on, someone goes, this next comedian is going to speak English. Way! And then we come.
Those are hard ones.
But, you know, that's why we were there. That's why we were booked. I mean, we were sort of the headliners for the festival, you know. So, but so I've got material that I can perform in Finland that I won't even bother performing in South Africa sometimes.
It's not
I've got
relevant.
material that I perform in Nigeria that I wouldn't perform in South Africa. You know, because the audience I'm talking to at that time, that's who they are. They're sitting on round tables. They paid ₦1 million per table. They don't clap.
Oh,
But the crowd at the back is losing their minds, bruh. You know? So, you know, they're sitting there looking at you like, okay, can you finish now? Can you finish?
They come and tell you how fun you were.
Exactly.
Because they are so mindful of the camera because they are brands.
Yeah. So you have to know, you have to adjust. That's that's what separates a lot of comedians all over the world, when you start putting them in front of crowds. Equally, English speaking comics are not gonna do fantastically well if they start doing shows in the Boaho where everyone is speaking Pedi. All the acts before you are speaking Pedi. The whole entire, you know what I mean? I felt so sad in December. I found out there's a show I did in Leboahomu the other year in December, right? And they told me the local comedian from there, people booed him off stage because he was performing in English. Not because they don't understand English, simply because how Thenjiwe, why are you coming to me?
Why?
Man, also was performing in English. Which made no fucking sense.
People can be so possessive.
So it's never guaranteed anything, especially with stand-up comedy.
But that's also what makes that's what separates great comics from mediocre comics who are so obsessed with fame. Because you've seen backstage people fighting to headline.
Yeah, and then I'll come and open up or be the second or third.
I've been doing comedy for years before Thenjiwe. I must headline. People fight. And then I've seen great comics like Joey Rastin who will come to a show and say, I want to open, and you're like, but we put here as and it'll tell you, no, but this is a Venek audience. I cannot headline for this audience, which I respect, because some people want to headline just because they've been doing comedy for a long time. And
yeah, but we know those things where we've had international comics come on Blacks Only, and I know where to put them on the lineup. And they're not coming there thinking, but I flew all the way from South Africa. Hey, I must be closing the show, because they know and they're professionals.
Listen, even the ones who want
you go to Ruben Paul's.
With some, even on their contract, it will say they only headline. Some of them will change the minute they see the poster, because obviously they do the research to see who's on the poster with them. Or when the show starts, they start saying, oh, the best I can do is at least headline the first half. They start wanting to change because they look down upon local acts. And then when they see, just being backstage, the laughter, the sound of laughter in the language you don't even understand. It makes you understand, it doesn't matter what I do here, I can never get this kind of laughter.
Dude, if you go to
big where I come from, but this place has its own.
If you go to Ruben Paul's show in LA, Ruby Tuesdays, Russell Peters might be on the lineup. Is it Carlos Lopez, the Mexican-American comic? Could be on the lineup. What's her name with the Night School movie with Kevin Hart?
Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish could be on the lineup. So who there is gonna now fight to headline?
Exactly.
But those people understand and they're professionals, You go to the comedy store and you give him 10 minutes, and you could have Dave Chappelle once walked in when I was at the Comedy Cellar once, and then obviously he goes on last, he does long, 2 a.m. he was finishing his shows, So when I was over Kutini, but I'm the headliner, he can't perform. There's no such shit. That's why all these things only matter when you are producing your own shows.
Yes.
When you are touring your own shows. Not other people's lineups and other people's shows and shit.
Can we talk about branding, especially in particular with names? We have comedians who use their own names, like David Cow.
Please read 2 Trillion's comment.
Which one? Please read it. I can't see it.
They dress up. He's talking about Nigeria. They dress up hard and wear tuxedos, then they separate the real people by a barbed wire fence in the back. He's been to the. We went. I think the last time I was in Nigeria, I was with him and Dumiso.
Mm.
Oh man.
So with
Donald says it's all the same in music. Artists are always fighting to headline.
Hey, they fight, and some of them are not the funniest people, and they go in headline and they die.
Hey Joe. No, the entertainment industry, you know, it has this, but there's bullshit that happens, but you sit down and you look at it.
Now, Donald say, I don't care what time you give me. I climax the show early and go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's done. That's what you're supposed
I know,
to do.
fuck Griff. I mean, Griff, I fucking know who you are, man.
So, with names, what would you advise an upcoming comedian? Should they go for a funny name that says I'm a comedian?
No, for me, I just think that's a bad idea. Because we spoke about names and brands earlier, and you know, when I said I've always played myself in all the TV stuff, or most of them that I've done. So I'm always a bit disappointed when I see someone very funny. What up, Griff? Guys, 2 Trillion is a friend of ours who lives in the US but has spent more time in South Africa. Has performed so many times in South Africa, in Nigeria.
Hi, 2 Trillion, we love you.
So he's in the building. Donald's in the building. TT from Witbank is in the building. Just Buddha is in the building. Stop Nosons was here. TT. Yes, Mr. Zatu, I write all my fucking jokes. I'm writing some now.
Yeah, I write all my jokes. Maybe I
no,
will
for
get
me,
to
once
a
you stop
point
writing your
where
own jokes
I am
as a
so
comedian,
big and so busy that I might hire a team. But for now, I write everything, even all my TV stuff. For now, I write it all by myself. I want to get to a point where I have a team of writers, especially for my productions, like Judge Thenjiwe, Mr. Kambules, and other productions I'm working on. But for now, I write everything.
Yo, Griff, we must make time so we can chat about your travels, man, and your visits to South Africa, to the motherland.
And David, let's talk about Lokuzan, people who want free tickets. Because sometimes I'll be having a show, and a friend or a cousin of mine will call. The show is starting at 8. They're calling at 5 to 8, saying, I'm here to support you and your security refused to let me in. I even brought 12 friends, and they haven't bought tickets. They want free tickets.
Nami, I'm in the building. Comedian
Hey, Sbahle!
Is that the real Sbahle?
That's the real Sbahle.
Yo. Hi, Sbahle, how are you? So, yeah.
So what do you say to people who want free tickets? Because they'll want free tickets, and then near break you see them drinking the most expensive champagne from the place, but they didn't have money to buy the ticket for the show they've come to watch.
You're killing me.
And comedians as well. The comedians you employ as a producer, and they tell you how much they want to be paid, and then on top of that, on the day of the show, they come with 6 people, and they want free tickets. And they always want free VIP tickets. They haven't sold any tickets.
So let me tell you when you must start appreciating them. I mentioned Bonke Shipalana earlier, who's literally paid me more money per gig than anyone has ever had, right? And if I tell you that guy, every show I do, when tickets open and I tell him tickets are open, even when he's not going to come or won't make it, he's the first person to buy tickets. I've known this guy for almost 18 years, 17 years that I've lived in Joburg. You know, one of my best friends. So those are the people that you need, honestly. You know, I'm in so many WhatsApp groups with friends, Thenjiwe. Even if it means they say, David, hold tickets, I'll come and pay or swipe my card when I get to the show. Or tell me, I'm going to tell everyone else to go and buy tickets. For me, at least, I think after all these years, that's where the people I keep in my life, that's the relationship we have now. You know? So then obviously there are fans or people that literally someone will say to me, listen, man, this and this has happened to me, da 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 da. I've come to all your other shows, da da da. For this reason, I can't make it. I don't have money for this show. And I'll be like, sharp, I'll give you tickets to my show. You know?
And also,
so, but there's people that take chances, you know?
I experienced
and that
this
are
a
just
lot in
rude.
KZN. There's a blesser culture, which we appreciate. But you know, our friends, the blesser type, who are our supporters, and I appreciate them. But what they tend to do is they will buy 50 tickets to support you.
Yeah.
And don't come. So you end up with a sold out show with 50 empty seats.
Yeah. The people who don't show up and they had comms or they bought.
Let alone the comms. The ones who buy the comms are so annoying because especially it's usually from these government departments who will request comms in one front seat and then don't show up.
You're killing me, Thenjiwe. Yes, yes. No,
listen,
yes,
I mean, I've had a show with empty, 80 seats were empty because they bought, someone was sponsoring me, but they bought tickets. But instead of telling me, so that at least I could give those tickets away to people to win, they just bought tickets. That was their way of supporting. But then I ended up with 80 seats that were empty in a sold-out show, and I was recording.
That's the show that I say I recorded. Donald actually performed at that show. Thanks, Don. And the last one-man show special I recorded in Soweto at the Soweto Theater. When you watch the show, you can see there's empty seats. But believe you me, the shows were all sold out. Yeah, the shows were sold out.
So what do we do about those guys? So, if you buy tickets, at least give them to someone who can come to the show.
Yeah, or they must give them to you. So I have friends also that will call me and say to me, I can't make it, come and meet me here or take this ticket, you know.
And then you can give it to someone can win it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just the catchiest thing to do, you know. But I have to tell this audience, Donald is probably one of the biggest celebrity supporters of comedy in this country. He's been to almost every single of our shows, small, big. He's performed most of my shows. Bro, my last show at Makufe 2 years ago, Donald was a surprise act. You know, I don't want to talk too much about it. I've got footage of that shit.
And like,
and now is the time we're gonna sit down and start editing those shows and performances and being like, yo, Don, this is what we're gonna release next, you know. And Fresh is a huge supporter and fan of South African comedy. There's obviously a lot of people, but most people can never make it because they also have gigs.
Yes.
But Fresh has been more than enough times. Donald so many times. Mpoma Boy and Paul Sulanyani and Renee, you know, those guys have supported comedy so much, man. And a whole lot of other people, and all these people that are here now live with us, that are following us on social media.
Then you can give those tickets to your sorry ass family members. But that's the problem, you do not know that those seats are empty until you get on stage. If they tell you early, then you can give them to the sorry ass family members.
Someone says Street Bash comedy shows, streets love you more than those who can afford the tickets. I'm not sure, Setsokhwe, what you mean. No, Don, thanks very much. Setsokhwe, I'm not sure what you're saying. Street Bash comedy shows, streets love you more than those who can afford tickets.
Yeah, ne?
No, I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. Now, guys, I say it on stage. I've got footage. I tell the audience every end of my fucking show, without you guys, this is how we make a living. This is how I feed my family. This is how we feed our families. Thanks for coming. Thanks for buying tickets. So from all that support, you need to convert it to those YouTube subscriptions, to watching our shows on YouTube. If we're raising money for projects, GoFundMe, go GetFundMe, whatever you can do, even if you just continue supporting and buying tickets
and it's important
and shows and DVDs the way you were. That's all it is. It's not about there's going to be a fundraiser, you know. It's about now we're at home. We are physically unable to come into a comedy show where we can all meet, where you used to pay and buy tickets. So now we're doing it the other way around. We'll send you the jokes, we'll create the content, we'll put it online. You guys can pick it up there. So
and there's someone, Mr. Zatu,
yeah,
says, how did you overcome stage fright?
Oh, I saw that. So, I'm a graduate, UCT Drama School, October 1998, and
That's
but
when
I think by then,
drama at DUT.
is it?
It was a technical Natal back then. I did
Yeah.
drama before I did law.
Yeah. So for me, even besides the drama, now as the guy, Baneba Guarana, never Guarana Kukas, but I was that guy that they would call Bare Zwandi Toto Guara Mama, and the people will gather around. So I think, if you've seen my kids are always performing, they're always camera ready, you don't have to cue them. And I think I was just one of those people, drama at school, drama in the church, Catholic church, Easter dramas. I've been there. So I don't think I had that much stage fear. Then for me, I always use the first 30 seconds of every single show. I would know exactly how my performance is going to go. I know if it's going to suck. I know if this audience is going to be tricky. I know if the audience is just going to look at me and not say anything or laugh, but clap at the end. I can tell all these things in like the first 30 seconds of me walking on stage,
Now I don't know if there's a specific name for it, but I get excited before I go on stage. I only get a bit of stage fright if I'm performing for an audience that does not know me. Because sometimes you get booked and you're like, I don't think there's anyone who came especially for me here. But like you say, within the first 30 seconds, you know what kind of an audience you're performing for. And I've also learned that not every audience will laugh. As in, like in South Africa, you get proper laughs. South Africans laugh. They will pick up a chair, they laugh. So when you go perform in other places, you get a clap of hands. It's like you're doing a theater show. But it doesn't mean you are not funny or you are not received well. And then afterward, the reviews are so good, and you're like, but why didn't you laugh the way my people laugh? We get so spoiled in South Africa, but black people laugh.
Yeah, and look, it gets, obviously, the more people love you, I'm not going to say the more famous you are, right? The more an audience loves you. Because you can be loved by a crowd of 500 people in Tembisa or in Mlazi, or a crowd of 1,000 people in the Free State, or you can be loved by 1 million people that watch you on television. The more people love you and you feel that love when you walk on stage, the better.
Yes.
Then the pressure just becomes to not disappoint those people.
Yes.
So, and that's probably that's why they say the hardest part. It's easy to get into stand-up comedy. The hard part is staying.
Staying is hard.
That's where you can see the first 5 minutes, that guy, he stole it. It's not his, it's internet jokes. Because now you can't maintain it. You can't,
which is also why it's important to be on the road, to travel, and not only perform for your audience. Like when I perform in KZN especially, first 5 minutes when I get on stage, it's standing ovation. They're just happy to see me. That's an appearance act. They haven't had a joke. Imagine if you can't even be funny after that.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with a lot of TV famous comedians. People are happy to see them. Yeah. And then you get on stage and you can't live up to the welcome that they give you. So when you perform, it's also important to in order to find out if am I really funny or am I still funny, to also perform for people who do not know you. And I know in comedy, kunale hierarchy yoguthi the new guys must open and blah blah blah. I think opening is one thing that is the hardest.
You know who kills and loves and doesn't mind any day opening? Joy Rasdin. Kagiso, KG, Mukhadi. Yes, those guys are some of my best openers ever. Like, you can bring the dome, bruh, and have 10,000 people, and you say to Kagiso, Emona, can you open? Or you bring Joey on a Blacks Only, and you're like, yes, sis, all these people here, who's gonna open? They will volunteer, you know?
And I respect that.
And
I mean, I am scared of opening. I don't even want to lie. Because when you open, you don't even know what the audience is here for. You don't know what's everyone. Oh, I mean, I'm scared of opening. I don't mind being in the first half, but I'm scared of opening. I am so scared of opening. And I'm always backstage, and which is why I don't like it when comedians have parties backstage and bring people who are there to talk. Because I like to listen to what the other comics who are on stage are talking about. Because you need to avoid going on stage and talking about things that have been over talked about.
Kagiso KG is in the building.
Hey, KG.
This guy, yo, guys, one of my favorite fucking comedians. These are the people that I say.
He was trending here in the UK, in the US, with the
You
stuff
are
he
lying.
did on Corona.
You are lying.
Yes, I told him. I sent him the stuff. He was trending.
That's fucking dope. I told him, and that's when I was like, dude, put your fucking social media on these things, you know.
And the funny thing is, it was not even about thingy. It was not even trending amongst the diaspora. It was American trending, like amongst Americans. And it did the same thing that you were telling me about earlier. It wasn't branded. So people couldn't now go and follow him. Only the ones that I know personally that I could tell, would know he's a comedian and this is where you can follow him. But because the video wasn't branded, people didn't know where to find him.
I told him, because, yo, you don't understand that first video, right? Yes, thing. You know, for me, what I love about Black Song, it's when you put a comedian on stage that nobody knows, and then there's a standing ovation after like 5-10 minutes. Man.
Those are the best shows, even for a comedian, when you're performing for an audience that doesn't know you.
KG's video for me is, yo, guy, you don't understand. You know when you are fucking excited about someone else's gag or joke or material, yes. No, bro, that he must actually rebrand it and repost it wherever, you know.
Yes, that was good.
So, but yeah, one of the funniest comedians. David, so for me, this is is it. But for me, you know,
which comedian do you feel needs to pull up their socks in South Africa?
I don't care. I can't set the standard for another comedian. It's got nothing to do with me. Imagine me saying you must. How do I know that's your best? You understand? How do I know you've reached your best? So,
what if
David,
your socks are secret socks anyway? How do you pull up secret socks? But David, a lot of comedians are wearing secret socks, so there's nothing to pull up.
Yeah.
Please talk about these videos on social media, people claiming to be comedians. Can you explain the difference between comedians and funny videos?
I think we talked about it.
We did talk about
other video. Yeah,
it's in the
other video you saved or the one I saved. If people want to call themselves stand-up comics, I can't stop them. But if I'm booking a stand-up comedian and I don't book you because I don't think you're a stand-up comic, you also can't stop me. You understand? So I think there's a lot of funny people. I've worked with these people. You know, some of the guys who didn't win So You Think You're Funny were some of the funniest sketch comedians that I have seen. And some of them I made movies with them because I knew their strengths.
Stand-up comedy. They're complaining about the lights.
They say the light behind me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So for me, I'm not trying to say you're a comedian or you're not. But if you think I'm gonna book you for Blacks Only because you did a skit that went viral and you were wearing pants that don't fit and you know you were putting food on your, that's a sketch. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not stand-up comedy and it's not what I sell. So you can continue doing your own thing. But if you wanna walk onto a stage with a microphone and it's just you and an audience, Those are the fucking Olympics, Baba. There's
And
no
I think
fucking
comedy
around,
is
bro.
so basic. Comedy is like
It
going on
is.
stage naked.
It is.
We
It's
are
just you
basically prostitutes, but instead of
that's why
selling umzimba, we sell jokes.
that's why for us, some of us, you know, when load shedding was like, depending on the venue, like small clubs, maybe the box, lights would go off and some of us would continue talking and perform because the audience is there. Take out a cell phone maybe for light on you,
I've
or
had
while
load
they
shedding a
sort
couple
out
of times.
the generator or whatever. So if that shit happens and now you can't see your costume and your thing and your props and you know,
Then it's gone.
I'm not trying to be involved, you know. Someone is asking if I do club gigs to less than 30 people. Yes. I can do gigs anywhere in the fucking world. Any day. As long as they speak English.
A lot of South African comedians do not go to Edinburgh Festival. Edinburgh is a comedy festival that goes on for a month. And you are performing every day. And sometimes you will only have 2 people. And you still have to perform for them. Yeah. And there was one time a friend of mine had 2 people in the audience. That's when I started respecting comedians from outside. Because in South Africa, when we have 30 people, we cancel the show. We're like, oh, we only sold 100 tickets. Let's cancel. Yeah. She performed for 2 people. Still did the hour, the whole hour. Only to find that those 2 women.
So let me tell you something. My first one-man show, Grahamstown Arts Festival, 1999, 200-seater. I had 6 people.
And you still
one of them walked out.
And you still performed.
I did an hour. And I did that for 2 weeks. And my last show, maybe after 2 weeks, I had 40 people. That's where I first met Tani Swamazwai, Boni Mbuli. They were in the audience at one of those shows. You know? So
my friend,
for me, how I've decided how I approach this numbers thing, right? I mean, Thenjiwe, Black Song is 3,500 people, 3 shows a year in Joburg. We did 10,000 people at the door. Trust me, I have fuck all to prove with how many people are in the audience for me. I don't. If I want to do that show, I do that show. If I want to go to Parker's, try new material, the biggest audiences we had paying were maybe 40-something people. You know, sometimes, some nights we gave out comms, so we had maybe over 60 people. It's a 200-seater club. I've done gigs at the box where if there's 30, 40 people, it's sold out or it's packed, you know? But some comedians think the numbers mean anything.
They mean nothing.
There's a bit of energy you might get, but if you are going to try out certain material and you arrive and you think, fuck, this material was for 3,000 people, but now there's only 2,999, then you have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
You understand? So numbers for me, you go to comedy clubs all over the world, the smaller the room, the better in most cases.
That's what people don't understand. And if you look at a lot of the recorded, even the big artists, like big comedian, a lot of them record their specials in clubs. Because it's more, it's much nicer, it's more intimate. The audience is really with you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have a big audience in order to perform.
No, it's just a money thing. You know, if you are producing, you are losing money or you're making money. But some of my best shows have been with a smaller audience. I'll show you a recording of my Sacrifice show. Because I was trying new material, so I was deliberately not looking for big crowds, right? And the audiences and there was a show I did where I asked everyone in the audience their names. Who are you? Are you a couple? Are you married? What are you doing here? Is this a work function? And I actually gave all of them my numbers because I said, for showing up on a Wednesday night, Parker's, me trying out new material, call me and I'm giving you tickets to the next Black Only show. Which obviously didn't happen. That would have been this past Saturday. And they all buzzed me, sent me their numbers, said, hey, this is me. I was wearing this. I was dressed there. Am I getting the tickets? You know? But that's how much fun I had with those people, with that audience on that particular night. You know? I've performed with Russell Peters, bruh. Jesus Christ, guys. where you do 6,000 people per show, 2 shows, where he's already done 4 shows in that town. Yes, dude. You know, you see the pictures, you see the crowds. Russell does stadiums all over the world, you know, and then he goes to the improvs and starts writing his new show, and goes to Caroline's and start doing 300 people to write his new show, you know. Goes to the Comedy Store, goes to Ruby Tuesdays. He's not fucking thinking I'm not gonna perform to this audience. But a lot of new up and coming South African comedians do that shit, and they've never even seen bigger crowds than that, except on other people's shows.
And but you never know who's in the audience.
Yeah.
Like those 2 people who came to watch my friend's show, they changed her life. They had flown all the way from America to Edinburgh to see her show, and they offered her a book deal. Can you imagine if she had cancelled?
Yo. Dude, I've done shows at the Klerksdorp casino. Sorry about the light, guys. I was trying to charge my phone. I've done shows at the Klerksdorp casino, and there was a guy, I would sell my DVD afterwards. And a guy came to me. I was selling my DVDs for 100 rand. This guy came to me and said, "Mebra, I drove from Kuruman. I had a tire burst. I got to your show. I have to book a room. I have 70 rand left. And your DVD is 100 bucks. And, you know, I have to buy food." He was with a girlfriend. And I looked at this guy, bruh, and I was like, fuck, bruh, you can have the DVD, you know? But my point is, that's why I said I've met and looked in the eyes of every single person that comes to my show. Because I sit down on stage and I take pictures. And I tell all the other comedians, take pictures with these people. They saw you, they loved you. They might not know you today, but this picture might mean a lot to them. But once they take a picture with you, they're gonna remember who you are, right? And the stories, bruh, of how people get to your shows or what they have to do. You know, when I started sleeping
some people are really coming as a form of therapy.
Yes.
That's why I'm always careful not to make fun of the audience, because someone has been going through depression, trying to kill themselves because of a bad relationship or whatever, and then a friend decides, let me take you out to a comedy show. As soon as they sit down, you are making fun of them.
But see, I've done shows where a couple would say to me, we haven't laughed like this in 10 years. Old white couple, right? Wake up, maybe sleep over at Empress Palace after a black song, we go to breakfast with my wife and kids in the morning. And then someone starts telling me about the show. I'm like, how? You were at the show? Yeah, no, we came from Mpumalanga. We came from, people travel, book shows, brah. Yo, there's things I don't take for granted, you know. And other comedians, I think they shouldn't, for their own brand.
And they think they deserve one.
You know? So it's but it's been awesome, guys. I've had an awesome fucking 22 years.
Half man, half comic.
Everything I have around me, all the movies I've made, all the equipment I own, all the material bullshit things I have.
When are you making your next movie?
I directed 2 movies last year, so they must come out at the cinemas.
Are they independent or are they for a channel or a network?
Those ones are being produced by, one is produced by a friend of mine, Sans Munsami, and his wife. So I was co-directing with him. And then the other one, I'm a director, but I also reworked and re-engineered the script and stuff. So
realistically,
but also because I was also not trying to carry costs of more movies and more productions. So I chose to take a check, work as a director, do what I need to do, and then I'll pitch another movie which we might produce and blah blah blah. You know, write, produce, which I wanna direct.
And realistically, how much does one need to produce a decent movie?
From 6 million rands in South Africa. 3 million, it can't be action, not too many locations, probably a romantic drama or something.
Not a lot of characters.
But 6 million, you don't want stories of this person didn't pay me, hey, David Cow still owes me money, yeah. Let's Patrolly, 7 years ago. No, we made it 9 years ago, I think, came out 7 years ago. Was about 10 million rands then, which was $1 million at the time.
But do you make your money back? Did you make your money back?
So at the box office, we didn't make that money. And it's a crazy story because I took a deal that I would have made percentage of the money, you know. So I did it because, again, it was me and Kagiso. Money was not
passion project
we were thinking about. And we had to make it happen, right? So what it has done, look at it this way. It's one of the most watched South African films on Netflix. So for me, the investment that we made 9 years ago, you could say
back.
is about to pay off.
And also, our audiences, South African audiences, why do they support things that's from, especially at the box office? They support movies from overseas more than they support movies from South Africa. Why? And what can we do to change that?
Because the competition is the same. So when Blaze Patrol was at the cinema, where it was making the most money in Sandton City, they took it out because Hangover 3 was coming into that cinema. That's the only reason they took it out. But that was the cinema that was making us the most money.
So why do we prefer foreign stuff over ours? Because let me just tell you a scenario.
Let me answer it quickly. So because the blitz we made for $1 million was competing with Hangover 3, which was made probably $100 million or $60 million, and Fast and the Furious 5 or 6. So remember, the ticket price is the same. So you have a simple choice as a consumer. You don't know who the fuck David Cow is. I'm not your friend. Maybe you've heard he's some comedian, Joy Rastin. You and your wife went to watch a movie. There's this blockbuster. The adverts are everywhere. You must remember, every Hollywood film that's made, the money for the marketing for those films are minimum $30 million.
And like we can't even have $1 million.
An average Hollywood production. So you need to, it's either you have a shit hot product or movie that people are gonna watch Noma Kanjani, or you have a big name that's directing that movie or a cast that's in that movie.
But David, right? I agree with that, but I also think there's also a lack of pride in who we are. For example, Wakanda, what is the Wakanda film? Black Panther.
Black Panther, yeah.
When it came to South Africa, I was highly disappointed in South African celebrities. They even donned their African stuff, looked all Wakandaized to go and support because they are fans. But they would never do that for a South African movie. For a movie that they are on, you book them, you hire them to act in a movie. They will never promote it the way they were promoting Black Panther. South African celebrities, like they become fans. They don't like even themselves. They would never promote your movie that you've hired them to act, like they are a part of the movie. They are making money from the movie. They would never do what they did for Wakanda.
Wakanda forever.
And you're like, why are you so crazy about this? We live in kingdoms. Why are you so obsessed about a fake kingdom just because it's coming from Hollywood?
Are we getting cut off? Some sound just happened.
I don't know. We shouldn't. I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
If we could give that much effort, imagine if South African celebrities gave that much effort to your film. Every South African celebrity was asking their people, go and watch David's film, putting the poster on their social media. would you not get an audience?
Yeah, no, it's, you know what, Keru is actually the producer for the movie, that one of the movies I directed, which was shot in October last year. So the
Okay.
other thing is, like exactly what you just said, Thenjiwe. We spoke about it, you know, when she was telling me who's in the movie, who she wants in the movie, the influencers that are in the movie, the celebrities. And I was like, I've been through this road before. I can tell you who's not going to show up on set, who's going to change their minds, who's going to come, show up, take the role, and not give a fuck when your movie is coming out and it's time to market it. And again, for me, I think the easiest thing I've done for myself, the people that I surround myself with, the people that I work with, have to be people that give a fuck about what I'm doing. So that's the first thing. So
I
from
think
the
we're going to have to
cast,
go out. We're going to run out of time. But when we come back,
we
there's
come back
something I
here.
need.
Yeah,
We're going to come back for
here.
20 minutes because I want you to discuss. Someone is saying I don't support Nollywood because it looks cheap. I want to talk about why African movies look cheaper than Hollywood and why people should not compare them.
Okay, guys, we're going to come back again. Guys, we've been going for 3 hours.
We're not going to be as long.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
Sha.
Guys,
we're coming back. Don't
Please
go
don't
away,
forget
guys.
to save the
Guys,
video.
you've been here for 3 hours already. Just stay
what
for
else
another.
Do they have to do? It's locked down. They are
just
locked down. At least
stay for
we're
another
keeping
10.
them company.
Sorry if your data is finishing. Just stay, guys. Guys, this has been one of the this has been the best fucking live Instagram thing I've done. And thanks,
I've
Thenjiwe,
enjoyed it as well. Thank you so
doing
much.
it.
Listen, before
And
we get kicked out of Instagram, please don't forget to save it.
Sharp, let me save it.
Sharp.
It's just saving to my thingy. It's not saving to my fuck. Okay.